Admittedly, the Black Panther had a certain vibe behind it, and that was a pre-Wu Flu film environment, so things were a little bit different. Black Panther made $1 billion. I don't think this is going to do that well, but I also don't think it's going to bomb like people have been jokingly saying. It does have a different vibe, but the saving grace is The Rock was, up until a few months ago, a very well-liked character by people across all spectrums. He was just, everyone liked him, and they forgave that he had been in some bad movies. We didn't care because we just liked him. But then a few months ago, he got into politics, where he chose a side in politics. And it's like, that's not necessary, Taylor Swift or Dwayne Johnson. It's just not necessary. As Michael Jordan says, Republicans buy shoes too. But, do what you got to do. You know who controls Hollywood, who holds the whip hand. And when they tell you to jump, and you're not like a Tom Cruise or a Brad Pitt in their prime, you're kind of a grade B actor. You just say, yes, sir. I'll get on my knee pads and suck Kamala's D as hard as I possibly can. So he did this little endorsement thing, and I don't know how many people were on social media to be aware of it. I think some. I think he's going to lose. He probably is going to lose some support for his films. And the rest of this cast, people look at this and like, we know what this is all about. This is just going to be just a purse puppy jerk off fest. Okay, so this just came out. It's every single redheaded comic book character that's been race swapped. And he goes through a couple dozen of these things. And you don't need to stop at redhead. You can go through all the characters that have been race swapped, because there's a lot of them, and it's kind of creepy when you see it. But the redhead thing is very creepy, because they're already the most rare people on Earth. They are an ultra minority. And the fact that you're replacing them with a majority, there are billions of Africans, and that's who they're usually replaced with. It's a little creepy. And then there's this article where if you are a mediocre actress, and you're a newcomer, and Hollywood, Northern California and Southern California and the rest of the country have different standards of hotness. My buddy and I used to travel to Los Angeles, and we would say women were Northern or Southern California hot. And Southern California hot, you'd see women like in, you'd see this similar in South Lake Tahoe, where you'd see women of all ages who didn't have any extra fat on their body. They weren't like they didn't need to lose that last 5 pounds. They were where they needed to be. It was weird. Like, you saw a lot of cheekbones and jawlines walking through Southern California. Anyway, so if you're like an actor who's not great and you're just kind of a 5 for Southern California, what do? You say you're non-binary and you're indigenous, BIPOC, trans, whatever. You try to get as many tags for your social media posts as you can, like hashtag BIPOC, hashtag WOC, hashtag, all this kind of nonsense. Why? Because you're very mediocre. You're like, who's that football player with the same kind of hair? I don't follow sports. It's like, it's bread and circuses for idiots. There goes 10 subs. Really, watching sports is like you're watching people who hate you exercise when you should, like, you'd be doing exercise yourself, or really any other activity. Jerking off would be a better use of your time, and that's not a very good use of your time. I'm just getting way off in left field here. She's a mediocre Southern California 5 who's got holes in her sweater, and I didn't notice that. So she can put her hands in her sweater? God, Hollywood people are so fucking weird. Damn. Let me this work. So she's putting every little diversity point she can. So when she goes for a role, it's like, I'm bisexual, I'm non-binary, I'm furry, I'm whatever all those little adjectives or prefixes are. All these kind of things, so you can put all these little hashtags in your, you're working for Hollywood, and you're like, oh, we hired what do they call, who's that girl who played Captain Marvel? Brie Larson called these women biracial. If you're talking about people who are mixed, biracial implies 2 races. They're, whatever. If I get too much into it, YouTube's not happy. Okay, so I'm sure you have your PhD in microbiology, and you have your MD. When you give me advice to stay home, I'm sure you're also pretty wealthy. Thank you for this 25-year-old girl giving me your medical advice that I need to stay home for a flu. Thank you for that. That's great. Where's I going with this? Okay, so if you're in Hollywood and you're very mediocre, you do all these things you can to make yourself stand out and virtue signal. You subscribe to the narrative of staying home, wear a mask, all that kind of nonsense. And then you let everyone in Hollywood know that you're very, very on the left. It's safe to hire you. You're going to be 100% behind the narrative. Whatever the left is pushing, you're behind it. You're gay, you're queer, you're all these things, you're all these check boxes. So when they hire you, they're checking their check boxes for their diversity checklist, which is a thing in Hollywood. So a film can be, Oscar eligible and that kind of thing. And it also makes it harder to fire you. And it makes it, if someone criticizes you or criticizes your role on social media, all of a sudden you have to distinguish yourself by your ethnicity or your sexual preference by saying they're attacking a, trans, non-binary otherkin, as if you live in the first world. You live in America. You live the most protected life you could possibly imagine. You have food on the table every day and you have clean water. You're not suffering from anything. You're not marginalized and oppressed if you're living in America. There's America poor, and then there's the rest of the world poor. So she's letting people know that if you hire her, she'll check all these boxes across the board for you. And when they replace characters, they're not using, you could use South Koreans, Japanese, Chinese. You could use characters from all over the world. Those titties did nothing wrong, though. So, but they don't. They specifically are using African origin characters, because they want as many diverse points as they can. And if you replace a character with a Japanese character instead, they would not get as many dopamine points? Or the weird thing is they completely ignore Spanish characters. Like, the country is half Spanish. There will be a majority in 20 years. Why are you ignoring 50% of the country and including 13% of the country? So they'll do something where they'll take a character who's like, he's African, but he speaks Spanish or something. They go, oh, they're Afro-Latino. That doesn't quite, no. Like, Spanish people want to see Spanish people on film. They don't want to see like an African person who is like a Mexican national, but they're like 100% African. Mexico wants to see a Mexican on screen. And you're just selling to an audience that is really small. It's really weird. But it's not, obviously, that's going to be great. It's not done for business purposes. It's done to virtue signal, I guess. Damn, that is some good art. And it is kind of an FU. It's kind of a, what are you going to say if you don't like a black character? Oh my God, not only you're racist, but you're misogynist, obviously. You're xenophobic, or you're all these kind of things. You're like, but that's not the character. You just replace it with something else. Why don't you just make a new character? Because they can't. They're SGWs. They can't create. They can only destroy. My God, this is just... I will say, the one character that they did blackwash or brownwash, oh yeah, this was egregious. This was just disgusting. Was the Spider-Man guy. I think he's Indian or Pakistan or something. And yes, I do hate brownwashing characters. He was good in Spider-Man. He played that douchebag character really, really well. Let's scroll down here. Oh God, this is disgusting. You're literally a European story. You swapped out a Scandinavian store somewhere with an African. They're like 10,000 miles apart. Why would you do that? We're doing it. Why are we doing it? Because fuck you. That's why we're doing it. That's their answer. Sorry to swear, but that's kind of what it boils down to. Is it's like it's a show of strength, and it's like part of their. They have this thing where they do. It's like a humiliation ritual for things they've conquered or areas they've conquered, and that's what it is. It's like you're not even selling to an audience that would be receptive. Like, there's 100 million Mexican Americans in America who would buy a Mexican character. They're not selling to the Mexican Americans. They're not selling to European Americans. you're selling to like 30 or 40 million black Americans. It's bizarre. It's not done for business purposes. I'll say that. This guy has a dad bod. He's got a beer belly, and that's the wrong uniform. That just shows that you've got a soft belly. That does not look like a movie star soldier. Anyway, let me get down. This kid, he did a good job in Spider-Man. He was such a douchebag, but he was so likable. So I'm gonna have to. I'll allow them. Well, I don't know where he's from. I assume somewhere in the Middle East. I'll allow them that one, but none of these others. They only. I didn't want to read the comments because they don't. They let a lot of the comments through, so they're pretty. They can get awfully spicy. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and oh god, I can't focus. This cheap ass camera. God damn, son of a bitch. Sorry. I will see you guys on Bitchute, because I don't think I'm long for YouTube. I start making videos for YouTube. I get halfway through it, and then I just start realizing, oh, I just can't put this on YouTube. It's just too much. I put it on Bitchute. So the odd thing is the Bitchute channel has been growing, and it's actually going to surpass YouTube in about a month, which should be mathematically impossible, but YouTube is not a unbiased platform. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the next episode.